Alright. Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we finished adding currencies to make a patch for Duriel's TitanBar. And today we're going to talk about the new version of TitanBar, or a new version of TitanBar perhaps, and then we'll try to improve how the TitanBar character settings file works. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. And in the meantime, let's look at what I am talking about. Let me go ahead and pull up my desktop here. And we're going to go on over to LOTRO interface and we're going to search for TitanBar. So, if you search for TitanBar, you are going to find several results. And this is because over time, different plugin authors have taken over the maintenance of TitanBar. And this is true for other plugins as well, but TitanBar just is notable in how many authors and how many versions there is. This is can be traced back to LOTROinterface.com assumes the author of the plugin is a single person, and they are the person who is uploading the description of the file, the actual zip file, all of the contents. So if that person moves on to other activities in their life, if they're no longer working on plugins, then, for instance, this started with Habna back in the day. If Habna goes off and does other things, is no longer available to upload plugins, then you have a discontinuity between the Habna version and then I want to say Technical 13 was the next one, maybe. Let's see, that was 2020, and then, Thorondor. Thorondor picked it up, and then Technical 13, and then Duriel picked it up, and now Fanshin has picked it up. And so this is just because LOTRO Interface doesn't have the concept of a project, like the TitanBar project, to which multiple accounts might be contributors, which is maybe a more modern way of looking at it, like under GitHub or something like that, where you can have a project to which multiple contributors are contributing. But it does cause some potential confusion. Now, if you are a user of the LOTRO plugin compendium, which looks like this, then the link that this is using to look for TitanBar has been updated. And so if you're it sees that I have a TitanBar installed, but it thinks I don't have the latest version. Why is that? My version is 141. Why does it think the latest version is 135.3? I'll have to look into that. However, because I was playing around with this and I'm looking at the wrong source, of course. Hang on a second. It's looking at my own favorites instead of a different one. And I had a link over to the correct one, and I have lost it. Hélas. Okay, but the correct plugin feed should be the favorites for LOTRO Companion itself over on LOTRO Interface, and I have a link sent to me, and I just gotta scroll up here in my feed. Fenton says it's /fav/plugincompendium.xml. Yeah, I could believe that. Thank you for filling that in for me. Okay, so installed plugins. Let's scan. You know what? There we go. Okay. I was doing a test with my own personal feed, and you can do that. Configure it. The default configuration is to look at sort of the official Plugin Compendium favorites feed, but that's how Plugin Compendium works under the covers. Is it looks at the favorites feed of a user over on LOTROinterface.com and uses that as the list of potential plugins to compare with what you currently have installed. I was playing around with something else. Doesn't matter now, mostly because of Fanchon, so awesome, and thanks for being here in chat. And let me know if I'm pronouncing that incorrectly or differently than you would. I'm sort of going on instinct here for how to pronounce names. Okay, so we can see I have the latest version of TitanBar, which is Fanchon's version. So if you're looking at LOTRO Plugin Compendium and you say, I want to add a TitanBar, then you're just going to see the correct one. If you're over on the website, just search by date, and if you do it a second time, you'll get the most recent first. This is the TitanBar that is currently being most actively maintained. All right, Fenton says it's fine. Awesome. You can always come back and say, oh, never mind, that irritates me, change it. But we'll proceed with that for now. I don't know that I'll be saying it that much anyway. So, after today. So this is being actively maintained by Fanchon, and I am attempting to contribute some changes as well. And that's great. So if you're looking for this over on GitHub, github.com, this is where the code lives, and this is where I'm going to be pushing out my changes to so they can be reviewed and hopefully merged into the release branch. Now, I was curious if I had access to the issues, and it looks like I don't, so I will not make an issue. Wait, I'm not signed in. That'll do it. Can I sign in? How exciting. Let's see. Not with those credentials, I can't. Just a moment. I am a little curious about getting signed in here in this profile. But I am going to do it off screen just in case like all my passwords pop up on the screen, which would be a little embarrassing. All right, I'm signed in. That being said, I don't see issues here. So Fanchon, I guess I'm interested. is there a plan to use the issues feature of GitHub to kind of track things that we're working on, things we want to work on, bugs that people submit, that kind of thing. And if you have a chance to reply, I am curious. Is it there now? Hey, issues, great. So, new issue. I'm going to make a new issue. I'm going to actually use GitHub like a more professional person than a text file. And what is the issue? Actually, that's a really good question. Let's come on into the game and get TitanBar loaded up, because right now I don't think I have any save files created. So I'm going to load it up, unload, and make sure it's all there. Great. So the problem at hand, what we're going to look at today, is if you go into Documents, the Lord of the Rings Online, Plugin Data, Account, and this is under Server and Character, you're going to see that the character settings, Prophets TV says greetings, hello there. The character settings file has this suspicious EN in it. And if we were to load this under the French and German locales, we would also get a TitanBar settings DE and a TitanBar settings FR.plugin data. And this is because the character settings are stored, are language specific, in the sense that if you make changes on your English one and you go into the French one, those changes won't be there, as far as I can tell. And this was an interesting solution to the problem of supporting different languages when you're writing your files out to file and you're bringing them back in. But I think, I'm hoping this is an unnecessary bifurcation, and that we can, or trifurcation in this case, and we can split them all, merge them all back together into a single file, so that we do not need 3 different files like this. So, issue. Character settings file is written per language. Description. The settings for a character are written to this, or this, based on the client language. And then I'm just going to come in and fix that, DE and FR. Oh my goodness. What a redhead's thinking. Something that Casper wants, but I don't think he actually wants cabbage. No, not cabbage. Oh, there's cheese involved. Okay, he does want that. I'm going to assign this to me. Try to merge these into a single file. Now, the downside is that if we do this, then it will kind of take the first one that you do load in as the authoritative one, and just ignore the other ones. And I think that's okay, because we're not going to have any data loss. They'll still be sitting there. So one could go back to those old settings. And it's entirely possible that you could have some players that actually find this to be a benefit, where they say, oh wait, I wanted my settings to be different from English and German and French. What have you done? You've broken my workflow. And there's, of course, as there is for many things, a classic XKCD about this very problem. I will have that in the corner for anyone who wants to read it. Every change breaks someone's workflow. But I think in general, it is beneficial for anyone who does change client languages to be able to have those same settings. And you can save your settings in one place with your profile and then load them when you come back in with another language or another character, and you can get them back pretty fast. But I don't think it's beneficial to be able to have subtly different save files just based off of what client language you logged in. That sounds like it's more confusion than anything. All right, so we're going to go ahead and submit this. Create that. So we now have an issue. If I come into issues, awesome. This is number 10. Maybe there were other issues. Oh, no, I think every pull request gets to be, is tracked under the same numbers. Yeah, okay. So this is like the first issue that's been created. So cool. Thank you, Fenton, for giving me access to that. So this is what we're going to be working on today. Cool, we have that. And let's go ahead and make a new branch in which to work. So we're going to come on into our source control. This is local on my machine, but it does allow me to pull in changes. So let's go ahead and fetch, see if there's any changes I need to take into account. Everything's up to date. Awesome. Let's go ahead and make a new feature. And we'll go ahead and name it character settings file. Combine character settings files. There we go. That's the feature. And we're ready to go. Okay, so what's going on here? There are two things at hand. One of them is a lot of plugins like to use a wrapper around the data save and data load functions. So backing up a little bit, if we come into the API documentation, go into the turbine, and I think it's in the engine. Nope. Plugin data. There is a load and save method within plugin data. And long ago, a patch by Vindar was produced called VindarPatch that wraps around the plugin data save and load functions. And you know what? I can't even remember what it does or why it's useful, but I think we are going to take a look. Really? Thank you. I don't want the pictures. Why am I making this hard on myself? Excellent. So they're saying this is an attempt for a patch for a bug. But what does it actually do? Let's play around with it, actually. When I'm trying to remember why something is useful, it can be helpful just to make a little code to exercise it. So we're going to make a quick and dirty little plugin and see what it looks like to write things with and without the patch, to read things in with and without the patch, and to see what it's doing. Now we can also look at the code, and it's totally valid as well. For that, we have that here. So there's a couple things that it is doing. Patch for turbine.plugin bug for European clients. Now, we have return a copy of the object in a safe format. So we have convert safe. Looks like we're doing stuff with numbers and strings and tables. Great. We have the inverse operation. Return it back, presumably during loading. And we have patch data load and patch data save. So we can see that we are, during the save, we are going to convert whatever we're trying to save, which is normally a table. And on loading, we are going to get a table back, and we're going to convert it back. So the real question is, what are these things doing for the European client? I don't actually have the European client up yet, but you know what? Instead of making my own plugin, I might just loop this into TitanBar. Because we have files being written by TitanBar. So let's take a look and see what this file has. Okay, so we can see there's a lot of decimal numbers in here representing transparency, red, green, and blue. We can see some integers values here. That's W for where is it. We can see some Boolean values. Visible equals false. Visible equals true, perhaps. Let's go ahead and make a few more interesting things in here. So we're going to go ahead and turn on the wallet. We're going to go ahead and turn on Mithril. We're going to show it on the toolbar. We're going to go ahead and turn on LOTRO points on the toolbar. And let's just say I have 999. And you know what? Let's turn on tokens of heroism. I should have 0. I just turned those in. And heroes marks. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and unload this, load it back in, convince ourselves that the save file is working. Great. And unload it again. And we're going to save this off. Now the danger of this is that there's 15 kilobytes of data here. And so we're going to possibly have a challenge comparing what's going on. But I think if anything is different, it'll be pretty obvious what's going on. So let's make use of VindarPatch. So first of all, we're going to go ahead and copy it on in. So going into Documents, Lord of the Rings Online plugins. We're in Have No Plugins, and we're going into TitanBar. Now, we don't seem to have a subfolder for libraries yet, for other people's stuff. So let's go ahead and make that now. Libraries. Now, it might be that Fenton doesn't want it in a subdirectory, that wants it in the base directory. That's totally fine. This is an easily customizable thing. And in main, we're going to go ahead and import this. So we want to go ahead and import, and this is going to be in Have No Plugins. Oh, here's the after. Excellent. And you know what? Let's go ahead and make app library D libraries. Awesome. And then we can go ahead and import app library D, and this is VindarPatch. Now, on the face of it, that should break nothing. Really? What have I done wrong? Surrounded with parentheses? Bonkers. Okay. All right, unable to resolve package. TitanBar.libraries.VindarPatch. Well, did I add .lua when I shouldn't have? Yes, yes I did. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to find that place where this file is being written out, this save file. Bims has some kind words. Gotta go. You have the patience of a saint working with the LOTRO API for as long and as consistently as you have on the string. That's very nice of you to say. Imagine if they give some love to the API. Hope springs eternal, but the list of things that the team at SSG wants to work on stands much longer than the amount of time they have to work on it. So choices have to be made on where they spend their time. And I certainly would not want to be the person in charge of allocating that time. It sounds like a thankless job no matter what they choose. So while I personally think it would be really very neat if we could steal some developer time to work on these things from time to time, I can appreciate why that hasn't gotten as much love and attention as I would like yet. But hope springs eternal for some of us, including myself. And I feel like one of these days, years, months, whatever, we might see a little bit of that. The fact that they still do make minor changes, like when they introduce a new class, they are actually adding that class to the enumeration or a new race. So they are able to make changes. They're just not willing to put the amount of time behind it to do major changes yet. Fingers crossed. If enough players clamor for it, that's really the thing. It's much like voting or any other democratic process, I suppose. If all the players were like, this is really important to us, we don't care about endgame raids, we don't care about new lands to explore, we just want plugins to be better. Not even all the players, a significant number of players. You know, there's 10,000 players, well, accounts joined over on the Discord server. If thousands of them were commenting on this repeatedly, thousands of different people, that might sway them in a way that a few of us saying, oh, this would be very neat, maybe doesn't have the power to do. So, you know, get in contact with your local SSG representative and tell them what's important to you, whether that's plugins or whatever it happens to be. But that's kind of where it is they look at the player base, they look at how the player base uses the game. I don't know if they have a way to gather metrics on how many people are using plugins or not, but they certainly can see how populations ebb and flow over the course of the year, and if they bring out a new content, new raids, new worlds to explore, and that makes the numbers go up and engagement go up, they're going to pay attention to that. And I don't know how they would gauge the success of plugins can now do X when they couldn't do that before. But yeah, like I said, I have hope. But I temper that hope with reasonable expectations. Bim says, yeah, I totally get it, just dreaming. Bims also says, agreed, it would allow the community to enhance some things about the game if they allowed us to. Absolutely. There's always the question, and I rewatch a Folding Ideas video called Why It's Rude to Suck at Warcraft. Every so often. I find it instructive, even though I haven't played Warcraft in a long time. It's about MMORPGs more generally, perhaps. But it talks about how, because add-ons in the World of Warcraft ecosystem have so much capability, they really they influence the course of the game in a way that plugins in LOTRO probably don't do so much. And if all the people who are doing really end-game advanced stuff in World of Warcraft are using specific plugins, and those plugins give them advantages, and the designers of the game know about that, and so they might take that into account and make these things harder based off of these add-ons, it's shaping the game. And people who aren't using those add-ons at all are going to have a very different experience than if add-ons weren't in the mix at all. And so over here with LOTRO's plugins, because they can't do as much, although they can certainly do many things, they are maybe influencing the direction of the game less. And people who are playing with plugins, people aren't playing with plugins, there's probably less of a divide between their experiences than over in World of Warcraft land. And there are conversations to be had about whether that's good or not, but it's noticeable, definitely. Anyway, I think about that sometimes. Okay, so we have saved off the old version of this. So what we want to do is, in those places where we write this out, and we're going to go ahead and search for TitanBar settings and find where that is being written out. So many places. In fact, no, this is there's 3 where we're loading, and there's 3 where we're saving. So at this point, we just want to change the saving. So what we're looking for is libraries dot patch data save, I think. But I will need to type it correctly. So if we come in here, libraries, VindarPatch, and look at this, we have patch data save. There we go. Okay. So what we're looking for is we're going to swap this in for turbine.plugindata.save. And we're just going to go ahead and replace each of these. Now, why do you say that? Undefined global. I'm not sure that's true, but let's see if we get the same error in here. Okay, so something definitely happened because now we can't load the file. That sounds exciting. Let's take a look and see what is different. Maybe not the VindarPatch. Okay, so we have, this is the normal one, and this is what got saved out. Oh, yeah. Okay, so, Bim says, sorry to derail you a bit there. Derailing is the name of the game over here on Plugin Along, and that's okay. I enjoy talking about more than just what's on the screen in front of me. So, VindarPatch, the first thing we can see is that it looks like it is mangling things up just enough. That's funny. Kingswell's, bro's cooking plugins for us. Let him cook. You know, it's like a stew. It's got to simmer a little bit. So what we can see, the effect is that the VindarPatch is mangling things up a little bit to prevent, I'm guessing, I'm extracting a little bit from what I remember, but when you save out a number, when you serialize a number, when you say, I want this number to become a string, How this happens depends on which culture your client is running in. For instance, if I want to serialize out 3 1/4, the number 3 1/4, in the English client, that's going to come out 3.25. And in the French or German clients, that should come out 3.25, because the radix point in the French and German cultures is going to be a comma instead of a period. So to prevent that, it looks like they're putting a pound sign in there. Now let's go into the code and see if our read of that is correct. Okay, so we can see in the conversion here, if it's a number, then returning to string. Okay, so what's going on with that? If the object is passed in, we're defining a function called copy, and we're going to copy that object that comes in. Okay, in the copy of object, we are defining underscore conversion safe. Okay, so let's pretend like that's not there yet. So if the type of the thing that's being passed in is table, then we're going to go ahead and return the conversion safe of that. Otherwise, what is the purpose of lookup? If type object is not table, then we're going to convert it. Otherwise, it is a table. So if lookup of object is present, then return that. Otherwise, we're making a new table. We're putting it into lookup object, and then we're going to go ahead and recursively copy things over. And why not copy over metatables as well? Okay. Now, this conversion safe function that is being called against things, if it is not a table, for each element within a table, otherwise we're going to make a new table that has these things in it, I think. Yeah, so we're going to iterate through. So, for each thing that's in there, if it's a number, returning the number. If it's a string, that. If there's a table, okay. Yeah, because in this table we have more tables. What is the syntax obj byte 1, -1 doing? I don't actually know. That is fascinating. There's all sorts of Lua stuff that I'm on the edge of understanding. But we're going through each one, and then... Well, we are calling toNumber. Okay, so we are going to serialize that number of what V is. No, wait, what? Oh, we are grabbing bytes from it. Anything out that's not a letter? If it's a number, return the toString the number. If it is not a string, just return it. So we are in a string. So we're iterating through the string 1 byte at a time. Okay. Let's talk about ASCII tables. Okay, so for those who haven't refreshed their ASCII knowledge in a while, ASCII, or American Standard Code for Information Interchange, is a way of representing non-numerical things as numbers. Yes, which can look a bit like a foreign language if you're not used to it. Okay, so we are saying if the thing is less than 32, 32 being the first printable character, okay, everything before 32 is going to be special stuff, and generally not something you'll see here, so that's interesting. But this is going to do weird things to UTF-8, isn't it? Interesting. Okay, and if the V is greater than 125, okay. That is questionable. I don't know why you would exclude a tilde, but okay. Then we're going to go ahead and take that character, make it a number, and surround it by pound signs. Okay. And then if V equals 35, that is a pound sign, then we're going to make a double pound sign out of it. Okay, so this looks like a homegrown way to escape characters that are outside of the printable character range of ASCII characters, possibly accepting a tilde. I'm not sure what's up with that. And I'm guessing this is because there's probably some guarantees for UTF-8 characters that will... Yeah, I'm guessing UTF-8 characters that are multi-byte characters are going to be escaped byte by byte here so that they go into the file mangled in a way that you can unmangle them coming back out. And that sounds useful if you are doing special characters. And, you know, I can do special characters. Let's do some special characters. Let's go ahead and come on into our code. And in the settings, right before we do a patch data save, and you know what? Let's go ahead and do the patch data load so we can actually load this thing. So, libraries patch data load. Otherwise, we're not going to get past that part. Okay, so patch data save. Right before we do that, we're going to come on into settings, and we're going to go into... That doesn't work. Lump of red salt keeps being first, but it's not going to be first if I start making changes. But that's okay. And we're going to make something test equals, and we're going to have some extended characters here. Let's see, extended characters. Okay, so what we would like to do is I'm going to ASCII-code.com here just for some easy extended characters, and we're going to do percentage sign. Yeah, that comes through. We're going to do the OE in an egg in French. We're going to take the British pound sign. Those are fine. But what we really want to do is get some letters here that I like that I've used. Okay, so we just have a couple sample letters here. So what we want to do is load TitanBar, unload TitanBar, and that makes sure the file is written, and we can see it loads back up. So let's come on in to... I was really hoping for this file. There we go. Okay, and here we can see, in effect, what I was describing, which is to say each one of these is getting surrounded by pound signs as a way of escaping it. And then... Whereas... So if the 35 is pound, so if the first thing of it is that, then return pound ... pound. Okay. Let's come in and see. So we do have a double pound at the beginning. And then after that, we have 226. Okay, what's 226? 226 is... Well, I gotta say, what was it supposed to be? Oh yeah, that percent sign. All right, where did that come from? That's funny, it was 137 on the other one, but you know what? That doesn't matter. We have 128, 176, and so on and so on and so on. So each of those extended characters got sanitized in a way. Let's go ahead and load this, unload, load, unload, great. So we can see the characters that fall within sort of the basic ASCII set of basic printable characters are unmangled. We have test at the beginning, test at the end. So that's what this seems to be doing. It says for characters that fall outside of the basic ASCII character set, we're going to encode them in such a way that when they're written out to the text file and then read back in, they will not be corrupted. Now, I don't know if this bug actually still exists or how relevant it is to modern gameplay. Because this was actually posted long ago. This was a 2010 file. So this is a fix for the parse error. Now, I gotta say, I don't know that this post is still going to be around. Anyone remember how to get to the old forums? I thought it was forums-old, but that didn't work for me. But I do know I linked to it over on the dtracker part of LOTRO interface. Let's go over there. dtracker. Great. And we're going to come on down here. The old ones here, it is forums.old.lotro.com. Okay. So, show thread, blah, blah, blah. All right, we'll give it one more try. Was it HPS maybe? Yeah, that might do. HPS forums-old. All right, LOTRO forums, and then we'll just do a Google search and see if we can't find that. Save in German and French version of the client. Now we see it LOTRO interface, yeah. Nope. Not seeing that. Okay. Some things die a slow death on the internet. So, you know, I was thinking this was useful for our problem, but it's not actually, I don't think it's actually useful for the things we are talking about here. Now, as TitanBar, is there anything that you can enter in here that's going to get saved? Numbers, renown, track items, player infos. That still work? Yeah, okay. Oh, profiles. Awesome. Let's go ahead and create a profile. Enter a profile name. I have named it 1 in Dutch. They have special characters over the E. New profile, Ain has been created. And if we come in for profile, we can see Ain there. So, real question, where did that get saved? Not there. Oh, of course it can't be, because it's got to be available for others. Okay, so the player profile, we can see the E with the accent gets written out correctly. I'm starting to wonder how relevant this is. So, the patch was for specifically German and French clients, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the game because you cannot change the language from within the game. You have to change it in the launcher. We're going to give the game a second to close down here. We can see the black window instead of my desktop, which is also black, so we know it's still thinking under the covers. There we go. So, what we want to do is make sure it has closed. It is so close to closing. I have the task manager launched, and I'm looking at the LOTRO client spinning down in the background. And it has the telltale sign of an application which is going through all of its allocated memory and releasing it. Which, if you are an application writer, and you have closed all of your file handles and all your network connections, and all you're looking at doing is deallocating all of your memory, just process exit. Don't bother with that. You are polishing the brass knobs on the Titanic. Your whole memory space is about to be ripped down and recycled by the operating system. You don't have to deallocate everything. It's just a guess at what's going on under the covers, and you know, on the whole, I'm a fan of no memory leaks, but if your program is exiting, that's the wrong time to be cleanly just deallocating memory. It's the right time to close external dependencies, to write out files, and then be done. Okay, but that being said, it is done. So we're going to come in here, and I just remembered that I forgot to do some patching in other languages, so this might very well require some patching. My apologies. So let's get that patched. Okay, so the VindarPatch was trying to address an issue with extended ASCII characters being mangled in some way in save files. So we're going to go ahead and come on into the German version of the client and see how these things read and write. Spiel. Okay, Piero asks, does the LOTRO API allow us to grab some info from the mini-map? I've been thinking of making a plugin that allows the player to see the lower level gray mobs, just like we see the red ones, while they are in our level range. What a great question. At the moment, the LOTRO API does not have any interaction with the radar, the mini-map. I mean, kind of full stop, right? There's no access to what is currently on there, where in the coordinate system is being displayed, is the player moving, and in fact, LOTRO APIs don't even have access to where is the player right now, unless the player does something to trigger a /LOC command, or possibly a /LOC command, depending on what your plugin is looking for. /LOC is probably more precise. Okay, so we're going to come on in with Tasha. Snafuto says, just want to thank you for Festival Buddy 2. I couldn't have learned the hedge maze without it. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. And if you have not tried it out, if you use the /LOC or your language's version of that, while you're in the maze, it will update your arrow and the direction you're facing each time that you press it. So if you bind it to an easily pressable key, I like to put it into this upper left here, so I do can't do that in German. I don't know what / shortcut is in German, but you can put it into an actual keyboard activatable slot or mouse activatable slot, and then you can bind a key to that. You couldn't figure out how to bind it to a key. So the basic syntax, if you are in the English client, is /shortcut, the shortcut number, and then /LOC. And I just tried to type it in the chat. You need to type, and Twitch didn't like it. Example. So shortcut 61 /LOC. So now in the German it's going to be different, so I'll wait until I get back to the English client. But what you need to know is that the slot numbers start at 1 for the very first one in your basic skill bar. They go up to 12, and it's 12 per row. So the first one and the second one, that's 13. Then you have 25, and then you have 37, and then you have 49, and then you have 61, just going up that left column. So you kind of have to do that mental math of how far over on which bar am I, and if they're detached and all around the screen, that's going to make it a little bit more challenging. But the first slot on bar 5 is 61, and I just remember that because it's the one I always use. If there's something already there, I'm not sure what happens. It probably gets overwritten, so maybe choose an empty slot that you're okay messing around with. And what will happen is you'll get a kind of a black box that when you hover over it, it says /LOC. When you click it, it does /LOC. And then you can bind a mouse action or a keyboard action to that specific thing. So it doesn't have to make sense. It can just be like the backspace key activates whatever's here and whatever's there is /LOC. My previous mouse, the mouse wheel could tilt in either direction, left or right. So I just bound mouse wheel tilting left to this spot, which means /LOC. And the mouse wheel tilting right was the mount up command to get on my pony or my goat. So yeah, your mileage may vary on how useful this is, but in the maze you can have basically real time showing where your arrow is, as long as you are able to hit a key or a mouse button that corresponds to where your /LOC is bound. So give it a try. Let me know if you have any questions. Worst case, we'll be back on the English client in the near future. Okay, let's come on into the system, the plugin manager, and we're going to go ahead and load this up. Now, if we come into Profile, of course, we can see, okay, Ain is there. Okay, well, there was an error message, and I'm curious what that error message was. PW fail, great. Well, let's find out what that means. Cannot be loaded because the language of the game is not the same language of this profile. That's fascinating. I gotta find out more. Hang on. How do we know what the language of the profile is? Okay, where is this used? Okay, L profile. Load profile. Okay, so if plang, okay, that's profile settings. Okay. Fascinating. I want to tackle that as well. So let's go make a second issue to track that this is a thing. We're going to come on in here, we're going to come on into issues, and we're going to make a new issue. Title. Profile can only be loaded if it was created with same client language. Fix this. Assign myself. Description. This is in profile.lua. And what function are we in? We are in FRM profile. And this is currently lines 53 to 69. check the TitanBar entry in the how did we know to load this thing? Where are those stored? Oh, no, this is... Right. Yes, okay. So this is probably a subset. Treebeard, Tasha, TitanBar. Oh. We're just going to go ahead and rearrange things a little bit. Order is very arbitrary in a file like this. Great, and we're going to go ahead and save that. Okay, and get rid of the minor stuff, and we can see, yes, that is just everything that was in there, but saved off. Fascinating. Okay, so check the TitanBar entry in the profile to see what language it was written from, and then will not load it if the language doesn't match current client. I don't like this. If we solve the radix point problem, this should not be necessary. Fix it. Remove the checks. And allow any profile to be loaded from any client language. Okay, we're going to go ahead and create that. Snowfudo says, I see the /LOC shortcut in slot 61, but no, I can't see myself in the maze map at all, even when manually typing /LOC. I'll tell you what, let's take a look at that. It showed my LOC in my chat bar. Yes, you should see it in your general, in your standard chat channel, wherever that goes to. By default, it goes to your general chat tab. Okay, let's come on in. And while we're thinking about it, let's go ahead and install Festival Buddy. And this is going to go into English. Yes, you can update it. You don't need to. But I can't stop you. Great. Now, I do want to say that you'll need to make sure that you are playing on the English client for /LOC to be an effective shortcut. I assume that you are, but if you are playing on French or German or Russian, then speak up about that because we'll need a different solution. But what you should expect to see is if you are in the maze, the spring maze, with the spring map up, then you should see a little red arrow. And we're going to see if that is true. So we're going to come on in with different Hobbit. Let's go to Long Zone. Level 20. This will be a challenge. So, first thing we want to do is set something in the shortcut. So let's go ahead and bring this down so you can see it happening. So we're doing slash shortcut 61 slash LOC, and that says in the 61st spot, place slash LOC. And if I click it, I will see, here, let me create a new tab. And in this tab, we are just going to put standard. So when I click this, we can see you are on Treebeard server 21. Fantastic. So let's go ahead and start off by heading on over to, well, that's very funny, the Breland Festival Grounds. And resist my urge to leave them immediately, which is what I always do when I'm here. Okay, we're coming on into the plugin manager. We're going to load Festival Buddy up. And it defaults to Spring, which is a happy coincidence here. And we're going to come open the Hedge Maze map. In we go. Now, if you are right at the edge, this might not work. But if you come on in, what we want... Aha! Okay, well, I'm seeing an error message on my machine, which is right off the bat not good. So let's come take a look at this. Attempt to perform arithmetic on a local west a nil value. Okay, so first of all, I have an error in there that I need to fix. So let's go ahead and load up one of the maps, like the Terrible Tweens. No, Elves? Yeah, A Fool's Errand. And then hit this again. So, if you are seeing this white error, attempt to perform arithmetic on a local west, the code was written expecting that you would have picked up a quest before coming into the maze, and the activation of that quest in your Festival Buddy would have populated a piece of information that is otherwise missing. So that's a my bad. But if you have activated a quest here, like a Fool's Errand, a Laugh at the Lost, Speedy Errand, then if you click your LOC button, what you should see is that little red arrow showing up in the maze, and if you're clicking it pretty consistently, then you're going to see that. Because the problem with /LOC is it's a temporary notification from the client that this is where you were at that time. But it does not capture if you are moving at that time or what your velocity is. Oh, it does capture your heading, but you could be moving backwards. So it doesn't capture your velocity. It only captures your position. And so I fade the arrow out over the course of 5 seconds, because that's about as much as I want to give, that's the confidence level I have of where you are in the maze. Like, okay, 2003, 2004, 2005. Yeah, we do not know where you are at this point, so we're not going to show you that arrow. And Snafu does say that was it. They didn't notice the error message in their log. My apologies for that confusion. That's a bug that I need to fix, obviously. So just to replicate that, I'm going to go ahead and save it off, though. Festival Buddy bug. Replicate. Try to use maze map without picking up spring quest while Festival Buddy is loaded. Because that's the thing, like, if you didn't load Festival Buddy, you have the quest, you go into the maze, you're like, oh, I should use that thing, and you load it up, we get this error message, and that's not very user-friendly. Yeah, so, replicating it, unload the Festival Buddy, load the Festival Buddy. We already had a Speedy Errand activated, so we need to switch to another festival, and then we're going to have to reload Festival Buddy, and then... bam, there's that error message. So the /LOC still happens, but the plugin's attempt to do something with it failed. And that's what's going on. Okay. Well, Snafu, enjoy Khanicharavan. I hope that brings you many successful navigations through the maze. Okay, so VindarPatch. Snafu has kind words. I'm glad it's working. Awesome. VindarPatch seems to be trying to address an issue that doesn't exist anymore, vis-a-vis extended ASCII characters. And when we look at these files, and let's go ahead and load up TitanBar, just convince ourselves that we can still see the profile manager. Okay, awesome. Ain is still there. If we load it up, everything works great. Profile Ain loaded. Awesome. In Dutch, the word for one and the word for are spelled the same. I want a book. I want one book. Those end up being spelled EEN. If you want to emphasize you mean the number, you put these accents there. Now, I want one book. I want a book. In English, we don't really have a way to make that emphasis happen. I want a book, I want one book to emphasize that. But in Dutch, they write it with the accent. And as Little Redhead has pointed out, EEN without the accents and E accent, and with the accents. And that's un versus ain. And I find it very nice to have a visual clarification of, are we just saying or are we trying to specify Okay. So we seem to be reading and writing out characters beyond what VindarPatch is looking for. So the main thing I want to focus on then is the radix point. And for the radix point, let's pop back into Tasha and let's save off the German version of this to normal. And let's pop it open and see what is up. That's not the normal version. I forgot to save the normal version without the VindarPatch because I am a foolish person. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the game again. Let's try this again. Actually, it is true that you can have multiple clients in different languages running at the same time if you work at it. So I could be bipping back and forth between them, and perhaps I should be doing that. Let's go ahead and... Foolish that I am, I didn't wait until it was fully exited. Let's do that. And hope that it didn't just mess up my user profiles. User preferences. There we go. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and... the real problem is you need multiple accounts to do it. And a willingness to delete some files. Okay, so we're going to come back into Treebeard. And get distracted with Discord. Oh, I had an unread message, you know. Neat dune. Okay, let's come in with Tasha. It was about a bicycle. Bicycle. Okay, as we are coming back in with Tasha, we are in the German client. And so what we want to do is load and unload TitanBar. And we'll go ahead and pull up the profile for Ain, and it won't work. Hélas. So let's go ahead and at least add in a couple of things. Oh, that's in the tooltip. That's fine. Okay. I dragged the wrong thing. Great, so we have a couple of items here. So we're gonna unload, load, things are still saving, that's great. So let's come on in and save this off as our normal one. And let's pull it up into here. It's not our normal one. I still haven't pulled out those changes. Let's come in into our source control repository and come on into settings. And we're going to go ahead and undo those. Load up TitanBar. We're going to go ahead and still can't load that. And where's the Yule? Okay. Great. So we're going to go ahead and unload and load that. Profile, we can even make a new one. And that'll be great. So the problem, I'm guessing, now that I have an actual original German one, is when we come in here. Oh, that's fantastic. Once upon a time, LOTRO was a 32-bit client, and then they moved it to 64-bit client. And the way we serialize numbers, it changes based off of your client language and your bits. And I wonder if I can't demonstrate that. I wonder if I can launch the 32-bit client. My goodness, I kind of wish I knew what that said. Change to the 64-bit. 9 is what I want. I wasn't sure if it was 9 or Nemals. Awesome, thank you, Fenton. It was pretty sure it was asking, do you want to use the 64-bit instead of the 32-bit, which, that's fair. Yeah, so you can talk to the internet. Now, I'm pretty sure this is the server to which this character has been moved. Little Redhead was taking care of that. These are some alt accounts we have for playing music. No, it's not there. Did you not move Fingerhood's Cloud, or are they not on Mariotic?
Because that's the problem.
Right, there was a thing with Fingerhood's Crowd.
Yeah, pick somebody else.
Pick anyone else.
Anyone else.
Any of our other characters. Jeez.
Just not that one.
Yeah, just not that one. Nuts. If you launch a new LOTRO client really fast after you're telling the old one to shut down, and the old one is still thinking about it, the new one will see that the user preferences files are locked and will assume that they're not available or corrupted or whatever and needs to start over. And if you have that happen, that is sad.
You don't want that.
So I'm going to come back in and fix that. Okay, 1,000 blood. Okay. 1000 Vlad, why did you need to update? Because it's in English now. Why is it in English? Because my user preference isn't right. That'll do it. Now sometimes when you're doing this, it'll say, oh, I'm trying to update a file, and that file is, I can't write to it for whatever reason. And when that happens, you'll just, a solution is to go delete that file, and LOTRO client will, launcher will re-download it. Now, if you're uncertain at all with that, go ahead and back that file up so that you can do a restore if you need to. But that's the general thing is, oh, this file is locked and I can't update it. You might be able to delete that file and it'll just start over from scratch. Did I forget to do 32-bit on that launcher? I might have. Alright, 5th time is the charm. So we're going to come into the options and 32-bit client, great spiel. So my memory is, and we're going to double check this, is if you are on the 32-bit client and French or German, the saving of these values will have a comma in the radix point instead of a period. And this is a problem for everyone. So we're going to go ahead and come on into 1000 Vlad. Let's see, Eladan and Elra are here in the mountains. Great. Okay. Ugh. Well, that UI is really small, but that's going to be a problem for later. Okay, so TitanBar, let's load that up. Profile. No profiles found. On this, oh, okay, profiles are per server? Fascinating. So let's go ahead and make some changes. And new builds, okay. Oh, it's a different account, of course. Plugins can't write to other accounts. What are we, silly? All right, so this is a German profile. Great. So if we come on in, why did I press escape? Don't know. Gotta get out of that habit. Come in, unload, reload, TitanBar. We can see all of this is here. Great. Let's go take a look at the file that was produced from this. So this is 7.2. All right, we don't need 7.3. This is 7.2. This is all servers. This is TitanBar player profile, but specifically Mariotic and 1000 Vlad. There we go. So it's not doing it. Okay, awesome. Assuming that is running as a 32-bit server, and who am I to naysay it? I am not seeing things being written out with a comma in them, and that is important. Because if they do have a comma, when they're being read back in, they aren't read correctly. Instead of being read as a decimal number, they're read as a tuple of 2 integers. So that's good. So what is our problem? What, if anything, is our problem? Well, the last thing I wanted to investigate before I start doing anything else is let's go ahead and save this off as well as .normal. And we're going to go ahead and load and unload once or twice. Wait, wrong character. Great. Unload, load. Oh, that was foolish of me. I moved it out of the way. But then it lost all the data because it wasn't there. Okay. Great, we have the data back. So, let's see. We should be doing patch data save, patch data load, lump overhead salt. Okay, so the German one now has that involved. Now it does have the benefit of trimming off the trailing zeros in a decimal number. That's good. But if the only thing Vindar is doing is escaping special characters, and special characters seem to be okay, then we're not too worried about that. Awesome. Now, the other half of it is parsing of values. So what we want to do is somewhere, and it might as well be in right before here, turbine.shell.writeLine, testing, parsing. And so what we want to do is I think we want to bring my main character back in as an English character. And that way we can compare and contrast what some of what's going on. English, please. Yes, you can update. And then I would like you to actually retain my username and password, please. Great. Okay. Okay, so Tasha is going to come back in. Slowly. There we go. Okay, so what we want to see is if I load and unload TitanBar, I don't see anything yet. I haven't saved this. Awesome. So let's go ahead and load and unload. We can see testing parsing happened. Where? When I first load it, I'm doing saves. I don't know. Anyway, so it doesn't really matter. So what we're looking for is number en equals, and this is going to be 1.234. And local number de equals 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I want to see is some of the results of toNumber, I guess. So first of all, local parsed en equals toNumber of number, not toNumber. Actually, yes, sorry, toNumber. And this is the string, actually, str and number en equals toNumber of string en. Local number de equals toNumber of strde. Let's give that a try, and then we want to write this out. So we can do stren number en, and then strde. Okay, so that gives us a basic demonstration of parsing with the various things. So we can see that 1, 2, 3, 4 got parsed as, am I seeing the right things? The string of it and the number of it, the string of it and the string of it. Well, that will certainly not give me the results I'm looking for. Okay, and there's an error message. Oh, what is German for error, do we think? Failure. Okay. Oh, VindarPatch says it as well. It sounds like the English for fail, right? Failure. Okay, so attempt to concatenate local number a nil value. Fantastic. If we don't already have a dump function, and we might not, let's go ahead and grab one. It's very handy just as a quick catch of Boolean and nil values. General functions, dump, basic debug function. Okay, so in this write line should have been dump of this, dump of this, dump of this, dump of this. There we go. So we're going to load this up, and we can see when we tried to parse 1.234 in this client with a period as the radix point, we get a properly parsed value. If we try to parse 1, 234, that does not work. Now I'm very curious how this will work in the other client. Let's go take a look at that. Okay, 1.234 and 1,234 are behaving the same here. So what's the problem? Things are working the way I want them to work. Is Festival Buddy doing something weird? Festival Buddy is saving everything as a string, right? Okay. Let's do this the other way. Number en equals 1.234. No, that's just number. And then str equals toString of number, and we'll do the same thing. Turbine.shell.writeLine, dump of number, str, okay, so this is the German one. No, this is English. Okay, And then 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. And 1, 2, 3, 4. I could have sworn I launched this as a 32-bit, but if so, I'm not seeing the issue. No, yeah, I see 32-bit in my task manager. The hair to ring. Okay. So in 32-bit, this is not a thing. Maybe I need it in 64-bit. Or maybe it just works now. Okay, now I do want to go into the options and make sure we are doing 64-bit. We are. Let's go into Marriott. Okay, so we're bringing a 64-bit German client up. And all this is running on my non-German Windows machine, but in the past that hasn't mattered. I've been able to replicate the problems here. But if the comma isn't sneaking into our numbers in the save files, and, you know, we're going to make sure that patch data is not getting in the way, but other than that, I mean, we're not doing that. We're just doing log output. Don't know why I'm not seeing it. Okay. Hello, Dazzleblood. Are we here to sing? Yeah, I am not seeing the comma coming up here. And if we did, we have ways to fix that, but it feels like maybe we've outgrown the issue. Maybe this is a thing that used to be the problem. Okay, if that is true, if we are not writing commas into here, let's go pull up the save file for this character. Having some extra accounts is useful for music and for plugin testing. Okay, so these are all dot. That's great. What was going on with VindarPatch when it read stuff back in? If the type was not a string, okay, then just return. If the object is blank, return blank. Try to parse it. If that worked, that's great. Otherwise, if the first byte is a pound symbol, then we're going to go ahead and take the whole thing except for that first one, knowing that we need to undo what we did before. So if the first thing in that string, oh my goodness, is he continually, oh, that's painful. It's not a performant code, but if the first thing there is a octothorpe, then we go ahead and we what is this? Then we take the first byte of it. Res equals that. Oh, that's the thing we're building up. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and pull off more stuff. Maybe these are 0 indexed? That's weird. Oh, no. If it's not 35, then we go ahead and pull the first one off. Otherwise, if it is 35, and if the next one is also 35, then that was an escaped octothorpe. We just need to put an octothorpe back into the string. and then we trim both of those off. Otherwise, there's a single octothorpe, and the actual thing that we care about starts is some number of characters here. Okay, so we go ahead and pull off that first octothorpe, and then we are going to count how many things are here that are not octothorpes. And then we're going to get the substring that corresponds to that many characters out of the string, convert it to a number, and then, assuming we got something, we're going to convert that into a string character. And then we are going to strip off all the things we just processed. So this is n squared performance. In the case where you actually have octothorpes, otherwise you iterate through the string looking for octothorpes. If you don't find anything, nothing happens. But if you do find it, we're going to go ahead and do a substring, copying all that stuff over, and then go through it and then copy things over again. And if you have n octothorpes in there, you're doing n copies. But the copies continue to be shorter, but only by the linear length of the string remaining. Feels like an n squared operation. That does not feel very performant either way. But these aren't very long strings in general. Okay. Fascinating. The other thing was the Euro normalize function. But at this point, I can't get LOTRO to generate commas in these files, and that's good. Except it makes me confused because I know this was an issue. I know this was an issue, like, since the time I have been doing these streams, I have run into this problem. And I feel like at some point they did an update to the embedded version of Lua in the game. Maybe that had an impact. The 32 versus 64 was definitely a thing. But now I just don't see the commas being a problem. Yeah, DT in chat says they tested this themselves a year or so ago, and it was still an issue then. Why can't I get commas to be written out? Now, okay, so maybe the code is doing something. Let's go back to the code. Ignoring VindarPatch, if we come in here, we're going to go ahead and get rid of that. We're going to get rid of this. And we're going to get out of plugin data. I want to make sure this is unloaded on all the characters. Great. And then we're just going to delete it. Oh, I don't want to delete it. Treebeard, Tasha. Okay. I think this will not work. Yep. Time to compare a number with nil. Tasha, we're going to go get rid of. Really? Yeah, that is not good. We're going to get rid of that. Really? Where is that? Setting is 63. What's setting is 63? Weird. Maybe... Okay. Okay. We're going to minimize some stuff here, because, my goodness. Okay, well, I just checked that one, and that is .vindar. And this one is also Vindar. Okay. .v. Cool. So, coming on in, do what I think is the 32-bit one, but I could double check that. We're in German, and I can't parse a value with a comma. DT says, I did set my OS language to German while I was testing, so not sure if that mattered. I don't think I've ever done that for testing this, for replicating this. Also, I am uncertain about changing my operating system language while streaming. I'm going to say that that's contraindicated. But it wasn't necessary last time either. Okay. So what are we saying here? If I am seeing things correctly, I am unable to write out commas to a save file. But I've had this problem where I will load up a different client language and then some of my plugin files don't work. And I'm trying to figure out why that is. What about Festival Buddy? What's going on with Festival Buddy? Okay, let's go look at some of those. This was which character? Genevieve's. Okay. Oh, that was Tasha. This is Dausenbod. So we should have something for all of them. Festival Buddy settings. Let's bring that on over. Okay, not that. It doesn't help that they only have 0 of everything. Okay. DT thinks the problem wasn't writing a comma, the problem was it adds a comma to long numbers and then truncates them at the comma when saving. DT, I'm curious what you mean by a long number. Let's see if we can take that into account. So if our local number is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.789, and in retrospect, comma 789, and if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.789. Okay, let's take a look at that. In Tasha, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Great. Everything is expected. Let's come on into a German one. Okay, so we're not seeing it in this particular. Okay. Yeah, DT, I am struggling to replicate problems I've seen in the past. And that concerns me because if I can't replicate it, I can't code around it. Or rather, I can do the thing that would be expected to be coded. But let's play around, because one place I know I have done this in the past, so I must have thought it was necessary, was the Hunter Deadly Decoy. Hunter Deadly Decoy. So let's go ahead and add that in. Okay. Now, this character is not a hunter, but maybe one of them is. Bard? Bard. That's okay. They don't actually need to be. Let's come on into the Hunter Deadly Decoy. But before we start using it, let's go into its code and change something. Let's go ahead into Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins, Keep Plugins, that's me, Hunter Deadly Decoy, and we're going to come on into probably just main here. And patch, save. Oh, alright, if it's not in that, maybe it's in globals. Save. Alright, so patch data save. Instead of patch data save, we would like to do turbine plugin save. And a load instead of patch. Okay, patch data load. Patch. Okay, that's good enough for me. Let's go ahead and 100 Deadly Decoy. Really? That's fascinating. Apparently, I hadn't been incorporating the turbine files. Okay. Options. Okay. That was that one. Load. Unload. In fact, we can go ahead and set that. Unload. And then finally the English one. We've got the decoy. And in our options, we'll set it to a different scaling. Okay. So what we should expect to see is some Hunter Deadly Decoy settings. Okay, so first thing I'm saying is these are not quoted, these are just numerical values. That's probably going to trigger this in a way that we haven't been. So, promising. Hunter Deadly Decoy. Yes, there we go. Okay. And 100 of the decoy. Nope, that was the same one. Okay, the problem is if in your table you have a numerical value, then it's going to be serialized in a way that is different than the toString, apparently. And so the numerical value here is actually sidestepped because TitanBar does all of its assignments to settings as a string, even though it probably shouldn't, except it bypasses this particular problem. So, if TitanBar doesn't store any numbers, then TitanBar doesn't have to worry about this problem. And we could deal with it on loading, but if everything is going to be parsed anyway and done as toString, then TitanBar is actually immune to this problem in a way that you wouldn't be if you naively just had a number as a key or as a value. And this is broken when you read it in because it looks like a number and another number as a tuple, and it's a syntax error. It won't load. Yeah, unable to parse file. I get an error message. And in fact, that's a problem because probably as much because of these keys as anything. What are we on? Interviews. Let's go ahead and fix up the keys at least for Genevieve. Okay, the keys worked then, and these values, the tuple, we only cared about the first part anyway. Yeah, there's that error message. Yep, and then it gets corrupted again. What is that value doing in there? Yeah, I'm curious. It's adding 3 numerical entries in there. That's fascinating. That's like a whole separate thing, it feels like. Window. Okay. So, every place where we set something to settings, we do a string format. Set setting. Currency name, settings currency name equals string dot format. Because it's already a string, it's being written out with no formatting changes. So the radix point isn't getting changed. And then currency name creates settings for this. Settings equals string dot format. I'm not sure where the load is. Load settings, great. And then after we get everything else, where we're doing settings equals string dot format, we're going to come on over to the currencies, which were recently changed. So much duplicated code. Load settings for currency. We're two numbering each of those settings values. At any time these things change, TitanBar specifically does a two-string value or a string.format value. Okay. if we can assume TitanBar in the short term is going to continue doing that, then I don't think there's an actual change in the files that we have to care about. Which I was really not expecting. I was expecting to see nonsense like this. But if that's the case, then the two things I wanted to do, a character settings file is written per language. Let's revert any changes we've made so far. Coming back into the source control. We're going to get rid of the VindarPatch. I don't think it's appropriate for what we're trying to do. We're going to get rid of our parsing testing. I'll keep that one. We don't need the dump function anymore. Might be nice to have it in general, but we're not going to deal with it right now. Okay, so we just have the one line. And we're going to come back into our settings here. Come up to plugin data so that we can go ahead and just blow it all away. We can't because it's open in a program somewhere. Okay. Has one of you not unloaded all of your plugins? I don't need administrator permission. That's the thing. Crazy. Okay, so we're going to come on in. TitanBar load, TitanBar unload, great. TitanBar load, TitanBar unload, awesome. And TitanBar load, TitanBar unload. Okay, so we should have recreated each of those. And so triggered not all characters, Tasha. Okay, so that gives us this. Because all the keys are characters, all the values are already formatted as strings, that all looks great. And if we come on in here to periodic Genevieve's and pull this up, we can see something that feels pretty identical. And if they are actually identical, the underlying hash trees probably are not too different. Oh, that is funny. Okay, so what we can see is that we're saving off the language that TitanBar's was in. And this is interesting because TitanBar lets you change the language, I believe. Let's see, more options. You can change the language of TitanBar? I thought you could. Maybe there's not a... Oh, there it is. Change language. So we can change the language of TitanBar to be separate from your client language, which is a really interesting thing to do. But it means that the plugin needs to have a separate conception of what language am I showing the user and what language am I expecting all the game stuff to be in if I'm looking for a specific item. Vengeance says, if you do that, TitanBar stops working. Right. If TitanBar is not currently separating out what language am I outputting all my stuff to the user in, and how am I detecting all of the stuff? Yeah, Fenton says can't read the currencies anymore. Okay, then that sounds like it could use a tracking item. New issue. TitanBar allows for separate client language and display language, but fix, okay, that's more of a description. But if you change them, then, but Phantom says that currencies stop working. Presumably, TitanBar does not do a good job distinguishing which language, UI or client, is used in what circumstances. Please fix. I'm not going to assign that to anyone. That's just someone out there can deal with that. It's not a today thing. Client language versus UI language not working. Says Fenton. I believe Fenton. They seem to know what they're doing. Okay, so we're just going to create that as a, something to document. Fenton says, I get the feeling I am someone out there. Who knows, maybe 2 weeks from now, me is someone out there. But this lets us document that it's a thing and why it's a thing and what's up. So, awesome. So, the second thing that I see is that no, everything changed. Why? What a world, what a world. TitanBar load and unload. TitanBar load and unload. TitanBar load and unload. Okay, let's see if it fixed it. It did not. Does TitanBar still think it's in a different language? Okay, that's in Deutsch, yeah. Change language to English. Great. We're going to come on into Tasha and delete Tasha's. Come on back into TitanBar. Wrong one. TitanBar load and unload. Come back into here. Okay, and this was Genevieve's. Okay, we're going to go ahead and delete that one. Go on in here, TitanBar load, unload. There we go. Okay, so the TitanBar is writing out the language, and that's important because we had that concept of a UI language versus a client language, but TitanBar, as we've heard, probably conflates the two in a way that it shouldn't. So we'll want to internally note one of them as just the UI language and only applies for when we're looking up strings for output. But that's an interesting question because right now we may not have that distinction because all of the localizations were stored in a single file, endefr, where we really need to divide those out versus client language things versus user interface things. And that might actually be enough to fix this problem, is if we just separate out things we're displaying to the user versus things that we're expecting from the game client. Anyway, we're storing that. That's the difference. Disabled for options. Now, I don't actually know which option we're talking about. Let's come on into TitanBar options. Auto hide disabled. We're storing the wrong thing here. Disabled. Yeah, see, TB auto hide, we're checking that value, and we're saying if it's disabled or for whatever. We should be storing perhaps even a number, an enumeration of some kind, and then changing disabled, or changing that number into disabled at this point. In fact, we could be using this value here, disabled always only in combat. Okay, so the disabled, what value is it actually? Oh no! Options H is written as a localized value instead of the key. Why am I only seeing? There we go. For instance, disabled instead of OPAHD. So if we used internally at OPAHD and only converted it into a thing during that display, that'll allow us to move past that. And then the final thing, and that is so frustrating because we've gone and changed the output again. So simple fix, delete that, TitanBar load and unload, and TitanBar load and unload. Great. And then our location. And let's pop that open a little bit more. This is player lock. Player lock.l. Player lock.l is also written with a localized value. And that is enter a city, or please enter a city. Seems politer. And I think that's also a case where these have the same underlying value. So, where is it? There it is. Instead of PLMSG. But that might actually be because your location is just saved. Well, I don't even know why we save that though, because we don't use it. Like if I load up TitanBar, it says please enter city. Great. If I do that though, and I'm going to do that here. I mean, I'm in Glen Hillig, but let's go ahead and load up TitanBar, enter a city. Fine. Let me see what I've got under travel skills for this character. Thorin's Gate. All right, we're going to enter Thorin's Gate. So the way TitanBar does this is it's paying attention to your regional chat channels. So it requires you to trigger a regional chat channel change, and then it can say, oh, you entered this region. So it knows we're in Thorin's Hall because of that. So if I unload Tasha then, it says Thorin's Hall. But if I load it back up, nope, not that one. Okay, it does say it. So it's going to display the last thing. I actually don't think that's a problem, because it is a display-only value. We can't do anything with it in the plugin. And we could save off of the key instead, so if you... and use it as a special case. And I think that might be worth documenting. If we haven't moved past the localized version of Yeah, if we saved off this value here, so if we haven't moved past the localized version of PL message, then maybe save that out instead. So we can so we can localize on use. But either way, this isn't in our way of isn't in the way of moving forward. Okay. So the options actually might not even be a problem either, because as we saw, TV AutoHide is looking for the 3 possible values, and if it's any of those, then we're setting it to disabled. It's so bad. So if it is any of these things, then, and these can get out of sync with the actual values in the localization file, which is its own problem, then we're setting it to the current localization value of this. Cool. And that's true for any of these. We're going to check the values for all 3 of the possibilities and then relocalize it. Bonkers. And I don't like that. But we can see we're doing it pretty consistently. So we don't need to worry about it for the consolidation of these files, but we should wrap back around. Where is this? Settings.lua actually checks for each language's version. Each language's version and relocalizes it, so we don't need to care about this here either. So there are no fundamental issues stopping us from merging the files. Okay, so that was a lot of work to figure out that we don't need to do any work. I'm going to add that comment. So it feels like we can consolidate the 3 files together into a single file. It feels like that will cause problems because of the language thing. Note, if we can solve the UI language versus client language problem, then the 3 save files, 3 settings of save files should be mergeable as is with no additional work. See number 12. All right, let's go ahead and refresh this page so it knows about number 12. See number 12. There we go. Wait, I invited someone.
Oh, not to the, it's a fellowship, not the kitchen. No, you can.
Sorry, I was sending a kin invite on the German client, so little challenge. Okay, so that's where we are. We have documented a little bit. So this issue is thus blocked on this issue, but when this issue is worked out, I think we can move ahead with this, and then we can also probably resolve this. do number 12. Nope. Reload. Do number 12 first. Okay. Now, I'm well past my 2-hour mark of streaming, and I think we've come to a good point in our collection of data. So, in the near future, I'm going to be working on this issue here, or someone is, probably me, to make it so TitanBar does have a good conception of separating the user interface language from the client language, because those two serve two different features, functions. One's talking to the user, and one is expecting data from the client. So I think we're going to bring this to an end here, and next time we're going to get started with that, or possibly before next time. But worst case, next time we're going to be working on separating out these two. DT says, okay, if I save 12346.789, the decimal gets changed to a comma and then gets truncated on load. Yes, if it's an integer in the settings table that you're saving. If you've already called toString on that value or string.format on that value, you're going to find that was the string.format call probably used a decimal point instead of a comma for the radix point, and the problem doesn't happen. So DT, if you want to give it a try, yeah, add that string.format, add that toString call. The one that TitanBar is using ubiquitously is string.format %.0f. And I think you'll see that how TitanBar is perhaps inadvertently, but perhaps this was the plan all along, works around this specific problem. Chanchin says, thanks for all the tests and the explanations. You're very welcome. I hope this was informative to people who aren't specifically working on TitanBar, but since Fanchin and I are trying to improve TitanBar, I thought this was a good opportunity to dig into some of the things that have been irking me, like why are there 3 different save files that all have basically the same information? It's great. I mean, if you think about it, that's certainly a way around save files having conflicting information for different languages. It's not my favorite choice, or not my personal choice, but you know, it's a way to do it. Let me put this string.format because I just realized I wasn't sharing the screen. So for DT, this is it, string.format with a %.0f, and then the TL was just the name of the variable. Neat. Awesome, in fact. So, thank you for sticking with me while I took a little extra time on this. Anyway, not a lot of actual, it doesn't feel like we got a lot of progress done, but I enjoy being able to dig into a problem and figure out why, or something that seems like a problem, to see, what can we do about that, and then document it. So we've got this documentation going. Oops, no, stop with that. It's Windows. We've got this documentation going with these issues where if I stop thinking about it for a while, I can come back and look at my thought processes as that I've documented so far. I can even say that this is needs to be completed before we can work number 10 and number 11. I can comment this. Although we can see GitHub has already automatically linked these, and notice that these two are mentioning it. Awesome. There's probably a thing we could do with sub-issues. I don't even know about how GitHub works with those. I haven't tried that. Okay, and DT says that if you save it as a string, you bypass the issue, but you do have to remember to call that toNumber on the other end to get it back out. Yeah. And it's so bizarre to me that toNumber and string.format, or possibly toString, are not encountering the comma or decimal radix issue, but the internal serializer for a table to a file does have it, which means it's using something different to serialize numerical values when saving to a file, which I find strange. I don't know why those two are producing separate results. And it makes me sad that they are. Well. Anyway, with all that being said, that's everything we're going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins in general and TitanBar in specific. I do hope to see you all here next week, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.